That is not just a joke.
I already told you. I did. See, you're picking that one thing because it's one of the worst.
No. Now you're trying to get out of it, and now you're trying to get out of it.
I saw a post you made on X a couple of hours ago. You said that Charlie Kirk was a coward because he debated kids on college campuses. Could you elaborate as to why you think he's a coward for that?
Absolutely. So I think there's a fine, and I'd say the same thing about Ben Shapiro and others. I know firsthand of people that Charlie Kirk refused to debate, but he went to college campuses and debated a bunch of sometimes ill-informed and unprepared liberals that were 18, 19, and 20 years old. There were very few instances where Charlie Kirk was willing to say, I don't know, go on NBC or CNN and debate actual real adults in their 30s, 40s, and 50s that cover politics for a living. In fact, he wouldn't even debate my friend Parker. He wouldn't even debate his friend.
He has debated Parker.
No. So, okay, here's what happened.
Well, he did debate
hold on. The first time he met Parker was at Jubilee. And then Parker was able to ask him one question at one of his rallies. And what Parker wanted to do was actually have a real one-on-one debate with him, not with 8 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but an actual hour-long debate. And
well, that's not how that's set up.
Well, guess what? The reason I'm answering your question, the reason why, and I'll let you go, David. The reason why I call him a coward is because if you're only willing to debate 18, 19, and 20-year-old liberals, and you're not willing to have long-form debates with 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds and people that do this for a living, then you are a coward. I stand by everything I said about Charlie Kirk. I know people personally, a handful of people on the left, that Charlie Kirk refused to debate. And by the way, I would call that a coward. I'm sorry, that's a coward in my opinion.
He debated with alternate facts and non-real facts, and he would bring up 17% of this and 77% of that, and he would leave the conversation. And obviously, the college students weren't prepared with those kind of statistics, and they're not even provable. But he would enjoy showing them that he had facts and figures, and the facts and figures weren't even accurate.
What's that, David? What did you say?
His reasoning for going to college campuses and debating them was because they are future voters.
Okay, I don't care. Okay,
future elections.
David,
you said you'd let me reply.
Okay, David, I will. Okay, but I don't care what his reasoning was. I'm just giving you the facts. He only debated 99% of the time a bunch of 18, 19, and 20-year-old liberals. He can give any reasoning why he did that, but the fact of the matter is he could have gone out of his way to debate people that were a little bit older. He chose not to do that. I don't think that makes you smart.
He did it on Jubilee. Okay. He debated several people on Jubilee, and that was of all ages. And that was a long format, like you said. He debated some people for several minutes. Yes, it was.
First of all, several minutes is not considered long format in debates. What I consider a long format is 30 minutes to an hour of debating somebody. Destiny does it all the time, and there are people on the right that are willing to do that as well. Okay, Schroyer is another one. Okay, okay, Charlie Kirk did not do that. Now, if you think somehow his reasoning,
that with some people, I can tell you,
very few. That does not.
But it's not. If you're, I mean, what's the amount that you would need for him to?
If you're considered to be, David, in my opinion, this is my opinion, a great debater.
Yeah, I'm not disputing it's your opinion.
If people want to consider Charlie Kirk a great debater, then I think they are complete imbeciles in doing so. I don't think he was
a good debater.
Let me be very clear. I don't have the following Charlie Kirk had. I do have more education than him. I'm willing to debate anybody who wants to come on this show. That's a name, obviously, for an hour or longer. I will sit right across from you and I will debate you on any topic you like. Charlie Kirk was not willing to do that with big names on the left and debating a bunch of 18 and 19-year-old liberals. And let's be honest, grifting off of it. He made tens of millions of dollars in doing so. Now, let me ask you.
That's not grifting.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. What's his wife doing?
Something he doesn't believe.
What's his wife doing right now?
Continuing the movement that he was.
Continuing the movement. So you think the movement, hours after your husband gets executed and putting out a picture of holding your dead husband's hand and then sending out mass text messages to people asking for money and selling T-shirts at your memorial service? Is that not grifting, David? You tell me, yes or no.
How is that grifting? First of all,
how is that grifting? Okay, so hold on.
I'm explaining because you're trying to get into the mind of a grieving widow.
No. Let me explain something to you.
How is that wrong?
Okay, sure. Okay. I'll explain to you. If she wants
Okay.
to hold her husband's hand in his coffin, that is her way of grieving. Have no problem with it. But here's what she decided to do. She decided to prearrange a camera videoing her doing so and then asking people for money. Mass text messages, throwing out that video, selling T-shirts,
That's
making
grifting.
money at.
Yeah, how is that grifting,
You're asking
though?
me,
Because
David.
she
Hold on.
believes in that
You're
thing.
asking me, David. How is it grifting? Selling your husband's T-shirts at his memorial service? Is that a serious question that I have to answer?
Well, because it's how is it not? Because it's his movement, and she's continuing his movement. How long does it have to be?
Because
before
it
it's not
wasn't.
grifting?
Because
10 hours,
I'll
5
explain.
minutes?
I'll answer that.
Because it's petty.
Okay.
I'll answer that. We're
Sure.
not talking about a Turning Point USA rally where they're raising money and making money. We are talking about a funeral service. We are talking about a service before her husband is 6 feet underneath the ground. There is a fine line difference between a Turning Point USA rally where a bunch of supporters are there and they're trying to raise some money. There is a fine line between that or a campaign rally, for that matter, where Charlie Kirk is selling some of his memorabilia or whatever you would call it, and a funeral. Do you not understand the difference and how inappropriate it is to be trying to capitalize and make money off of a death?
Appropriate. I don't think
So
that
making money off of a
capitalizing
death.
on it. She's-
Okay. All right. That's fine. You don't think
she's
it's.
not making money off of a death.
Yes,
She's
she
she's
is.
It absolutely
Okay.
was.
First of all,
He
okay, hold on. Let me tell you why I disagree. You don't think it's capitalizing and making money off of a death. Hours
I don't think it's
after.
off of a death.
Okay.
It's off
Well,
the movement.
hold on. You just said the word death and you said
Sure.
you don't think it's making money off of a death. David, here's why I disagree with you. Hours after her husband died, in fact, the very next day, I saw the text message that she sent for Turning Point USA with a quote from her. She was the one who was the directive behind it, sending hundreds of thousands of text messages the day after her husband died. Let me repeat, the day after her husband died. Please explain to me how that is not taking advantage and making money off of your husband's death.
I don't see how that's. I don't see how that's taking advantage. It's literally continuing the movement that he
No,
Continuing-
it was a swindle, is what it was.
Continuing the
How is it a
movement.
swindle? Who
Okay,
did
let me
she swindle out of
explain.
money?
Let me explain, David. Continuing the
How is that
movement.
a swindle?
Okay, continuing the movement would have been maybe if they held rallies across the country a month or two later. They had a Ben
Okay,
Shapiro.
so continuing
Hold
to
on,
your
hold on,
guidelines,
hold
in
on,
other
hold
words.
on. Continuing the movement, even though I disagree with it, would have been holding more rallies. Maybe after her husband is buried.
Let a little
Maybe
time go by, right?
maybe let a week go by and Ben Shapiro, Michael, whoever speaker they have, and then sell his memorabilia there. That's fine, whatever. She decided to do it before
Okay,
her
so
husband
a
wasn't
week
even
would have been
cold
not
yet.
grifting, but
Before
the
her
day-
husband-
Wasn't even in the ground.
Before her husband was 6 feet underneath the ground, his body wasn't even cold yet. How can you not see that as taking advantage of your husband's death? How do you not see it that way?
But again, 1 week wouldn't have been taking advantage. So you just effectively.
I'm
throw
not
the
saying.
money at
Do
her
you
as
not?
long as it's
Do you
during
not
the funeral.
understand?
You just said it.
David,
You gave me
David,
your guidelines.
David,
Talking about time and
David,
attenuation.
David, I need you to understand what I'm trying to say because I don't think you're connecting the dots, okay, with respect. I'm not
Okay.
talking about a funeral service or a memorial service. I'm talking about a Turning Point USA college event
Rally.
where speakers speak or a rally.
Right.
There is a fine line between that, whether it was a week after or even 4 days after his death, and then doing it before his body isn't even cold. How is it you don't understand the difference? That's the definition of grifting.
You're asking me if I understand what the difference is. I'm saying that I don't think it's an issue that she handled it the way that she handled
Okay,
it
that's
because,
his opinion.
again, she's continuing what
All right,
he
David.
wanted
Can I,
that
David, can I
organization
ask,
to continue. This is a
can I ask
Sure,
you a
sure.
question? Is that okay?
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
is it your opinion that Charlie Kirk was not a divisive person who spewed racism and hatred and talked down about black people and females and women? And is it your opinion that he was okay guy because he debated and he belittled poor people and people that had empathy and people that he didn't like the Civil Rights Act? He thought it was
Yeah.
ridiculous and a waste of time.
I was
Are
gonna
you
ask
You're
saying
asking me
that
a
guy's
relatively
okay?
broad
Is that what you're
question. Can
saying?
you-
All right, let's shorten
You're-
up the question here. Let me
Oh,
since
sure.
you want to
Sorry,
say
was that
it's
a long
broad,
question?
let's shorten it. Do you condone somebody who smiles and asks his supporters to donate money to someone who just attempted murder on Paul Pelosi? Do you think that's a good person?
No, I think he was wrong when he did that.
He was wrong when he did that.
I think he was making it a bad joke.
What about everything else?
He did that.
He was wrong when he did that. What about attacking Michelle Obama? No, nonsense. Let me tell you something. 99%.
It does matter.
Here's why it doesn't matter. 99% of that show, for 3 hours, if Charlie Kirk said how horrible it was that this guy attacked Paul Pelosi, and then he made a joke and smiled and called people heroes if they bailed this guy out, it wouldn't have changed the context of anything. It would have been just as wrong. So that is an excuse. You saw the clip.
Told you that
all right, so don't make the excuse. So don't make the excuse of context. Okay, context doesn't matter. Not in that situation.
Thing from another thing that he
no,
said.
no. Okay,
of course context matters.
Okay, so in that situation, you're saying context matters.
In every situation,
okay,
context
so let me
matters.
repeat again. Let's just say he did a 10-hour show, and in 9 hours and 59 minutes, he said how horrible the attack was. And then in 1 minute, he smiled and said, anybody, one of my listeners, is a hero if they bail this guy out, with a smile on his face. That is what I am trying to express to you. Context doesn't matter when in that 10 or 15 seconds, you smile and ask your listeners to bail out someone who just tried to kill Paul Pelosi. What part of that do you not understand?
So you're saying the context just for that doesn't matter?
The context, it was shameless. That's what he's saying. That is shameless.
Let me tell you something.
And
if a white person calls a black person the N-word, and then 99% of the show is praising how wonderful black people are, do we need context, or would you say calling a black person the N-word as a white person is horrible? Yes or no? Would you listen to somebody that would say, give it some context?
Now you're making random hypotheticals.
No, I'm not. I just gave you, hold on a second. I just gave you a direct example. If Charlie Kirk for 9 hours straight.
That's not an example.
No. You're not listening. I'm going to repeat it again. If Charlie Kirk for 9 hours said how horrible the Paul Pelosi attack was, and then in 15 seconds of that made a joke, smiled, and said anybody who donates money to try to bail this guy out is a hero, it wouldn't change my opinion. The context wouldn't matter. Why are you making excuses for him and what he did in that 15 seconds?
How am I making excuses?
Because you're saying context matters, and in this situation, it doesn't. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Because the context of that specific situation was, he made a bad joke, and I thought it was wrong that he did that, and he smiled.
I think what you're missing is context is subjective. You don't always have to have context. When something is factual, you can put it in your own context.
By the way, I also disagree.
Right.
David, I also disagree with you saying that it was just a joke. Charlie Kirk
was not a joke.
Charlie Kirk has had millions of listeners. When you ask some of your listeners to help donate money, which, by the way, some people did, so it wasn't a joke. They donated money to a guy who tried to kill somebody because Charlie Kirk called them freedom fighters and heroes to do so. That is not just a joke.
I already told you. See, you're picking that one thing because it's one of the worst.
No. Now you're trying to get out of it, and now you're trying to get out of it. You said context matters. No, you've made excuses and tried to make the case that context matters in this specific. You said in this situation, context still matters, and I'm telling you, if you say that, you could for 24 hours straight say how horrible the attack was, and it doesn't change what he said. The context in this specific situation does not matter, and you can't admit that.
He's trying to defend the indefensible. That's what's going on.
What do you keep?
Because context matter in this specific situation. When he joked around, he did make a joke, and then he asked people, his listeners, to donate money, and they would be heroes if they bailed this guy out. Does context matter, or can you just admit it's wrong?
Literally both. Context matters.
Oh, get the hell out of here. You're ridiculous, David. I tried to pin you in a corner, and I did, and you still say context matters. David, I can't get anywhere with this guy. I can't get anywhere.
Well, he refused to answer the question, and I would have respected him more if he decided to just answer the question honestly, even if we didn't agree with his opinion. But he's saying context. First, it was objective, right? He's trying to explain. And then context became subjective. That makes no sense. It can't be both.
Just an absolute goofball. it's impossible to get through to
What
some
he
of these
did
people.
was objectively wrong.
Absolutely.
And let's just leave it at that.
Absolutely.
Joking and asking for
Yep.
people to bail someone out who tried to murder. Actually, he was trying to murder Nancy Pelosi.